I need to make sure they get what their heart needs in order for me to get to the end. That concept of humbleness has always stuck with me. Just like, maybe I am not the most important person in every collaboration. Maybe I really need to realize that as long as I get to the end, if I let you be the most important person, then you win too. So I've lived with that since then. And I was driving with the kids the other day, and I was just telling them about that. Is maybe, when you guys are dealing with other kids at school and teachers, is maybe you need to make sure that being a smart aleck isn't always as good as letting the teacher know that she's the smartest and she's doing things that need to be done. And when she's happy, you'll be happy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. Chuck Anderson here. This is the Creative Collaboration Show, and I have for you another amazing guest who is all about collaboration and co-creating programs and products and just really, really cool ideas. And he's got some great stories here for you as well. So please welcome to the show, Dan Morris. Welcome, yes. Dan.
Yes. Was waiting for the stadium sound, like the cheer. Right. Yeah, I was waiting for that.
The crowd goes wild.
I see all the people out there. Just all the eyeballs looking at me. It's just fantastic. I feel the love. I feel it.
And if this was one of those super, high-tech, geeky podcasts, I would have the buttons that I could push and, on yes, cue, the audio. That's a great idea. Maybe we'll aspire to that one day.
It would be good.
So, Dan, thank you so much for being here. And look, I always butcher people's introductions, so I don't even try anymore. So I am going to let you introduce yourself who you are, what you do. We're going to get into some of your really cool stories, whatever you want to tell people. So Dan, introduce yourself to the world of our collaborative entrepreneur audience.
I really like to introduce myself when I don't remember the other person's name. And so I don't know how to introduce them to that person. So I always like to say, hey, I'm Dan, as if, they didn't know me. And then hopefully they say their name. And then the person I'm with hears the name. That's my tactic. Yeah. When I have to find out someone's name.
Especially if it's difficult to pronounce.
Yes, exactly. Because I have learned that everyone in my life, their name is either hey or dude. Like, that's just the way it is. My wife's always like, do you know the neighbor's name? I'm like, yeah, it's dude. Every time I call him that, he says hey.
He answers to it.
He does. So it's dude. So anyway, introduce myself. That's an interesting guy. So sometimes when I get tripped up on that, because I think to myself, like I'm a military brat. I was growing up, and I've lived in, 17 states and 3 countries. And I always think, does that make me something? Is that interesting? Does that add any knowledge to how I could be the way that I am? And I would say that I'm living in Nashville, Tennessee. So I don't have a Southern accent that I know of. But some people say, well, you have a weird accent. And I tell them that, they're like, well, I've lived all over the place, so it's probably from everywhere. My wife is Rachel Marie Martin. She runs findingjoy.net, which is a giant motherhood blog. She's got a book deal out of it, and did the Today Show circuit and all that stuff. And together, we run the findingjoy.net for the moms of the world. And then we also do a couple of projects a year for digital marketers, for vloggers, podcasters, and bloggers. People have a website that are looking to get more out of it, and small business owners. So we kind of do those 3 things. And in any marriage, I guess there's a division of labor. So she's kind of in charge of writing the content for the motherhood site. And it's become as big as it has. It's got almost 1 million fans because she's really good at taking what's in her heart and somehow putting it on paper in a way that most people can't do that. Most people can't write like that. And then I work mostly on the digital marketing stuff. And then she's kind of like the back end person for me on that. And I'm the back end person for her on hers. And then oftentimes we get up on stage and then we talk collaboratively about the kinds of things that we do together. For instance, we haven't spent a dime for Facebook, and yet with findingjoy.net, we reach millions of people a week, and one of her goals is to get 1,000 likes in the first hour on some of her posts. So we talk about, how do you get reach on Facebook without paying? Like, what is that process? And then we combine that, which is the Finding Joy motherhood site, and combine that with my side, which is affiliate marketing and products and copywriting. And then we put those together when we do stage shows. And before COVID hit, I think we did maybe 104 8-hour workshops around the world, which I can talk about in a little bit more in a little bit. But that combined with having 11 kids, that's pretty much what we do.
Wow. So your whole life is about collaborating, right? So you have 11 kids, you have a business partner who is also your wife.
Yep.
You have 2 amazing collaborative businesses. So everything that I just heard is all about collaborations.
I will tell you that the most difficult collaboration is blending families. I will say that's the most difficult thing that I've ever had to do. And I didn't know. I think that's maybe what makes it hard, is that you just are unaware of the areas in which you'll have to collaborate and compromise and find the space where everybody fits. It is a very interesting chapter if you ever get to that part in life. It's something that I was totally not expecting.
Well, and the old saying, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, but it also teaches us really cool skills that, you don't even know that you need, but they're useful in other ways. And so that difficulty, I'm sure, has led to some ahas or some takeaways that do carry forward into your other relationships.
One of those is that interesting that you say that. As I was driving the other day with one of my children, because that's the only way to put that. One of my children, I can't say one of the boys, there's so many, there's so many girls. Like, I mean, how do you know? And we were talking about humbleness. Like, what does humble mean? And I was telling him I used to, in my previous life, my non-digital marketing life, I was a real estate developer, and I built 65 Walgreens pharmacies in all of the United States. And I worked with this guy who was a super, super rich guy, the kind of rich where he didn't even consider himself rich until he had like $50 million liquid, like that he could just use, not tied up in investments. Like, that's what he considered to be rich. And I just remember thinking, I wonder when your definitions change over time, like that kind of stuff. But in many of our dealings, we would go out and meet with a property owner. I was young, chomping at the bit, just wanting to make awesome things happen. And my boss was much wiser than me and had this humble sense that I struggled for the years that I worked with him to even understand. But now, as I'm older and I can look back, I totally get it. But there were many times when he would let the sellers win, and not necessarily win, but he would let them feel like they won. They wanted to sell us property and they wanted to get a particular number, and we didn't want to pay that amount. And so he would throw out a couple of different ideas. And for us, he would be throwing out ideas that would, for them, be a compromise, but would make it seem like they're not going to do our compromise. And instead, they're going to stick to their number. And somehow in the end, every deal would get done. And we would make the money that he would make on the store. Maybe we would make 50,000 less, right? but on a $3 million profit margin or something, did it matter in the end? So I came away with this 6 years of working with him, realizing that that whole concept of the Pyrrhic victory, where everybody's fighting to win something, and in the end you win, but you don't really win because somehow you like ruin the relationship or something else happened. Every single time he was willing to sacrifice something, knowing that the end was his only goal. And if he had to lose some ego, if he had to lose smarts, if he had to look silly in a meeting, if he had to even look dumb in a meeting, if it got you to the end, it was the collaboration that he needed. It was like, if that's what it takes, I need to make sure they get what their heart needs in order for me to get to the end. That concept of humbleness has always stuck with me. Just like, maybe I am not the most important person in every collaboration. Maybe I really need to realize that as long as I get to the end, if I let you be the most important person, then you win too. So I've lived with that since then. And I was driving with the kids the other day, and I was just telling them about that. Is maybe, when you guys are dealing with other kids at school and teachers, is maybe you need to make sure that being a smart aleck isn't always as good as letting the teacher know that she's the smartest and she's doing things that need to be done. And when she's happy, you'll be happy. But anyway,
it reminds me of how long it took me to learn that lesson, because as a student and as a guy in his 20s, it was so ego driven. I had a plaque on my wall that said success is the greatest form of revenge. And it was all about, how big can I make myself look? And,
yes.
but now I really resonate with what you're saying, because that was the pivot point. That was the turning point. It's like, well, wait a minute. What if in order for me to win, someone else has to win first, or at least feel like they've won, right? And so that where you're not getting over on someone, but you're actually working together, you're collaborating, so you both feel great about the outcome.
Yeah, it's interesting how long it takes to learn some things in life.
Mm-hmm. And that's a key thing about creating collaborations and partnerships that are not just sort of like a one and done sort of thing, but are something that can stand the test of time, and where everyone is involved is getting something out of it. And so Dan, I know you have a lot of stories about collaborating. It's something that you do so naturally in your business. Can you recall either a time or a project or something that you've done that was a collaboration maybe that really stands out to you, that might inspire our listeners in hearing that story to go out and look for their own ways of partnering and collaborating?
Well, we did 104 8-hour workshops around the world, and we only paid for a venue twice. But they were in person, like 30 to 50 people in a room. And I don't really remember how the idea came to us. And I don't even think I had the idea. Actually, I think it was Rebecca Careau, who now has a podcast for rowers, sculling in the water. Mm-hmm. She was a contact in New Zealand, and she wanted to. We had been doing these workshops in the United States, mostly, and in Canada, in Vancouver and Toronto. And my original idea was, what if I call up Twitter and I say, I would like to do a workshop, and I'd like to bring 40 bloggers to your offices. I'd like to put on an 8-hour workshop at Twitter itself. And then at lunch, if you guys would like, I would love for you guys to give a tour of the place to the people who come, talk about Twitter, have somebody come and talk about, all that's great. And the first time that we did that, it was AWeber, our email marketing company in Philadelphia. Wow. And they said, that sounds great. Bring them in. Because, they wanted to sell Aweber. So they have a facility in Philadelphia, and they have a training room that's got about room for 50. It's a really modern looking place. So we did that there. And then we did Constant Contact in North Carolina. And then we did Twitter in California. For us, you bought the tickets on our website to come to the event. And they pretty much had nothing to do with it other than the fact that I gave their address and they had somebody there on a Saturday who would let us in, and then the boss would show up and talk about stuff or something like that. So we did that quite a few times and it worked out pretty good. And it gave us two things. One, I became more important at Aweber because now I knew the players. I sat down with the boss. I was actually in the office. We had many phone calls about what was going on. And then at Constant Contact and at Twitter. And we became it really expanded our view of who was on the playing field. But then Rebecca Carew called and she said, do you guys want to come to New Zealand to do this? And I was like, great, we'll start working on that. And this is where the entire model for us changed. Because Rebecca, who was a mover and shaker in New Zealand, knew all kinds of people, big into the entrepreneurship, big into helping entrepreneurs, probably into different groups like BNI, networking groups. She said, well, I already know of the places that we can hold it. And it's going to be my event. And I'm going to be bringing you to New Zealand. So instead of a Blogging Concentrated, which was our business name at the time, instead of a Blogging Concentrated event, it was a Rebecca's event. And then Rebecca said, I'm bringing these people in from the United States and we're going to be talking. Here's this, what we're talking about. And you can go to their site and you can sign up for it. And then they'll come on a particular Saturday. So we did 2 different tours in New Zealand, 2 different years, 7 cities. But we realized that was a method we could do anywhere. We could find a mover and shaker in any city and say, hey, look, I see that you're all over the place in Philadelphia. You're at this event and you're at this event and you do local marketing and you're trying to do all these things. Would you be interested in putting on a workshop of your own? And we'll come, we'll do the workshop. We'll do the 8 hours. We bring the curriculum, we bring the stuff, we'll teach. But then you can introduce us. You can bring, you can tell all of your people about it. You can bring a couple free people that you want because it's your event. You can speak at lunch about all that's going on. You could highlight people in the room that are local, that are important. But for us, it ended up being a revenue stream. It was it was again, a time where it wasn't ego driven because it wasn't our event. It was their event. But for us, it was a chance to meet people, to teach what we teach, to get out and see stuff, to grow the list, to make the revenue, but at the same time, make somebody else look, pretty awesome. They're bringing the thing. They're doing an event in town for all the business leaders. So we did that for a couple of years, and it was almost like, where do you want to go on vacation? Let's find somebody there. We'll sell enough tickets to pay for the whole thing to make us money. We'll go there. We'll do an event. We'll see all the sites, and then we'll come back. And for a couple of years, that ended up being a pretty awesome collaboration. And it was different people all over the place, but it ended up that we really didn't have to pay for venues hardly ever. And we got to see all kinds of people in person. So I thought that would probably be a good example.
It's a pretty good example. And I gotta say, there's so many things about that story that I love. The first thing that comes to mind is how many people would have the idea or even the courage to say, all right, I'm going to do this event. I'm going to call up Twitter and see if they would like to, provide some space for us to do this event. And I've been doing events for 20 years, and I have not known anybody that have done that. I know lots that have done corporate training. You go in and you talk in corporations, or, and they have the space, or you go talk at schools or universities or whatever. So much of it is done in hotel conference rooms.
Yeah, that's what we try to avoid.
tens of thousands, sometimes even over $100,000 for bigger events. By the time you rent the venue, buy the coffee, it's like $100 per cup per person that they charge for coffee and catering. You've got your AV and everything that you bring in. And like, I just think about all the money we've spent on events in the last 20 years. And then here's this amazing idea. I wonder if Twitter would like to co-host an event with us.
Yeah. So, I mean, to some degree, like I never, ever want to do a hotel. It's so cold. It's just, I mean, to me, it's a horrible experience. The carpet, like just the little table in the back with the water and the coffee, just the whole thing. It's just so, I just feel like life is over when you walk into a hotel. But like even in Milwaukee, the guy that we collaborated with knew of a coffee shop, Stone Door Coffee, I think it was called. And they had a meeting room upstairs that fit like 30. But it was a coffee shop. I mean, it was a cool atmosphere, you know? There's so many places that you probably know in your own city. All you have to do is find you in every city, because every city, somebody knows, oh, there's actually a hack. Ooh, I forgot about this. There's a hack.
We like hacks.
Eventbrite. If you go search a particular city and you just search for the letter E, like everything has an E in it. So everything comes up in that city. And all of a sudden you can start scrolling down and you see the venues that all of these things are at. So you can almost like suggest like to somebody you're going to collaborate with, like, hey, I saw that there's these different places that people are meeting in your town. And even just the mention of that, a local person will say, oh yeah, I totally know about those and this place over here. And this coffee shop loves to do, as long as you buy the coffee, they give you the meeting room for free. And like the hack enables you to speak somebody's language locally. And then it gets their juices thinking, like flowing. And all of a sudden they're like, I totally remember some spots. I'll call you back. I know some ideas. And then that's it. It was awesome.
Wow. Great idea too. Like if you got an idea of, oh, I want a vacation in this particular city. I want to do an event. Where can I do it? Well, you go to Eventbrite, type in the letter E, apparently. I'm going to try that as soon as we're done here, because that's pretty amazing. Because, you know, we've had that idea ourselves, but we always end up doing like the way we usually do them is, you know, conference centers and hotels and all of that. And we've spent a fortune on those things. I love, on so many levels, everything that you're talking about.
Oh, even in Denver, the public library there's a city just south. Oh, I can't remember the name of the city. So it's an A, Aurora, just south of Denver, that has like a state-of-the-art library, and the library has a conference little area. And as long as a local person signs up for it, you get to use the thing for free, and you can bring in catering. And I mean, it was just like beautiful. You don't have to pay for anything. It's an unbelievably beautiful place. Like, it has a pond in the backyard. Your people could eat out at the pond. I don't know. There's just so many places. You never have to go to a hotel.
Wow. Great idea. And I love the hack. And that might have to be my new question that I ask on all my interviews. Is like, do you have a hack that you can share? Because I mean, I love the hacks because I mean, people come up with all sorts of creative stuff. I mean, you know, you wouldn't normally just come up with that on your own, but by hearing a story like yours, it's like, that's amazing.
Yes.
And so, great idea. We might have to do I've got a new idea for a new show right now.
There you go.
Not that I need one. So that's great. I mean, that's when you said prior, like, you know, because I know with your businesses, you're all about collaborations and partnerships with other business owners and content contributors and all of that. But this story, you weren't wrong. Like it blew me away in terms of and what it does, I think, is it's inspirational. It kind of gets your thinking, well, you know, what else could I do differently? Like, how else could I look at something that maybe I'm spending a lot of money for, or maybe that's been really, really difficult?
Sure.
And, who or what could I combine with to make this so much easier?
So we're in New Zealand, and we mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking, like, who doesn't know who Gary Vaynerchuk is in our world? In our digital world, like, who doesn't know? But several people in the room do not. And then on the way home, I'm talking to Rachel, and I'm thinking, how do people not know? Like, how isn't the internet the great equalizer? Like, isn't Facebook how do you not know? So then we got to talking, and it occurred to me that I also found out while I was there, because we do website reviews sometimes, that people use different plugins. Like, everyone here uses Yoast and Smush It and all these, just the normal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But they had different plugins I'd never heard of before. And then some of the gurus that they spoke about, I also didn't know. Like, I didn't know who Natalie Cutler-Welsh was at the time. So we got back and we thought we need to do an event where we introduce our people to that audience and their people to our audience. But it needs to be collaborative. That was the idea. So you were saying in our other business, it's all collaboration. This is what we came up with. We decided, now I don't like summits. And I don't have anything against summits other than the moment that a summit is over, like, you don't have a lot of assets. If you took notes because you were an attendee, great. Did you write down the person's name? Maybe you wrote down. Maybe you came in a little bit late and you just took notes on the nuggets that you got, the really good information. Do you go to get the thing the speaker says that they have for free for you to get? Maybe. But and then there's a speaker at a summit, when you end the call, like, then it's just like, are they going to sign up? Like, did it work? Did I say enough to get them to sign up on my website? Like, did it produce any value for me? So we decided, what if we did a product summit where the contributors give a product? Now, a product is basically an example of your knowledge. So the contributors provide a product, which means everybody who goes to it walks away with a product. They have an asset. Mm-hmm. But in order to get it, we send them to the websites of the contributors to sign up for it, which means when the contributors are done, like, they walk away with a new audience. So now you've got an audience walking away with products, and you've got contributors walking away with a new audience. And then we added a third component, which was the affiliates, because people pay for it. People pay for the product. So that means we had money to pay affiliates. So affiliates make the money. So it's like a project that is three parts. Three things have to work together. The first is they have to get contributors to give a product. The second thing is you have to have affiliates to bring buyers to the table. And then the third thing is you have to have buyers who want to learn. So everybody wins, in the end on the thing, our main business, which we call BC Stack, which is like business courses stack of business courses. And for us, I put it together. I do all the cold calling, and I try to do as much cold calling as I can, because if I already know you as a contributor, then we probably have some overlap in audiences, and that's not how we introduce new people to new audiences. Like, I try to find people who we don't have any common friends. That's like the best, when I find you on Facebook and it says like 2, one of them is my mom. And then I'm like, this is awesome. So we cold call, and then I have to, like, we have the opportunity with the stack to provide income for families. Like Jennifer Maker, who's this big YouTuber, she ended up telling her audience about BC Stack a couple of years ago and walked away with $20,000 in affiliate commissions, and then built a studio for her YouTube channel, which she just won an award. And I think she just launched $1 million product. Like, she made $1 million in a day or something. Some crazy thing, So for us, it's like this, we get to interact with all of these affiliates, all of these people who've built an audience, who like to bring unbelievable products to the audience. And in return, they get paid, which is what money they use for their family. And then we get to interact with all these experts, which, leads us to new experts. And, we get to be in the niche, we get to know all the people in the niche. And then we finally get to grow this audience of all kinds of people who want to be really good at digital marketing. And kind of like Larry King, they come and say, who does this and who does that? And sometimes we help, sometimes we do it, but most of the time it gives us a chance to say, well, this guy over here, that's the guy that does that. So go learn from that guy, and then, come back next year and buy it again, please. Mm-hmm. But, that's kind of the idea. But yeah, like you said, our entire world then is collaboration, because I don't do the bulk of the work. I do some of the work, but all the other people have to do their job, or the whole thing doesn't work. And then when everybody does their job, everything works, which is great.
Amazing. And on, again, so many levels. And I love how you describe that you need the three components. You need an audience that wants to buy. You need to have contributors that want to contribute content, and you need affiliates who can promote the thing. And just so happens in our audience, we have all three of those. So we're going to make sure that we connect the dots to you and BC Stack. And I know you have some other programs that you're working on as well.
Oh, yeah.
All the links to that here as well. You want to tell them about that real quick? And then we're going to turn the tables to the bit of a, we'll kind of bring this in for a landing, but tell them what else you got going on.
Well, can I add one more thing about Stack?
Yeah, sure.
I think if you're an affiliate, if you're a contributor, and you're trying to figure out how to turn what you're doing into a career, but not just a career that you tell people, but that you can rely on an income going forward, because we have the hardest job. Like, there's no retirement, there's no Social Security, there's no thing to fall back on. Like, we have to figure out, how do we make money long enough so that we don't have to worry about going to get some other job. Well, one of the ancillary benefits of Stack that I have learned in the last couple of years is that we have a 2-tier affiliate system, which is fine. Lots of people have 2-tier, right? Which means if you bring someone to the table and they buy the Stack, but then they also become an affiliate, well, that becomes your second tier. So that person, if they make some money, you get 10% of it. And for me, I thought that was just like I felt like that was a cool frosting on the top thing to offer affiliates as a way to help them make a little bit more money. And that was in my head, like, that's like, this would be cool. It'll be frosting. They can make a little bit more money. But it's more than that. And it's way cooler. So, do you know Ricky Shetty from Vancouver?
I do. I know him very well. Yes.
Okay. So Ricky is a connector. And he is an unbelievable connector. That's his thing, is people. Like, people is his thing. Mm. So for a while, one of the things that he would do was he would bring me affiliates just by, hey, I met this guy at a conference. He'd be great affiliate for BC Stack. So I would sign the guy up, after talking in email. And then I would sign him up, and I would manually put him underneath Ricky. So it'd be Ricky's second tier affiliate. Well, over time, those second tiers, because it's a lifetime commission, every June now, Ricky Shetty gets money from me because his affiliates, people that he brought to the table, are promoting it. And then he makes 10% of whatever they make. So when he is thinking about his year of income, 12 months, he's thinking, okay, in June, I'm going to make some money from Dan, from BC Stack. And in October, I'm going to make some from his other product, Podcaster's Kit. And if I can every single month find for myself a way to make a second tier passive income, then I have this underlining income of my business that just comes to me because of little things that I do. but I can sort of rely on it every month while I go out and do my normal thing, do workshops, write content, do YouTube videos, do all these other things that you normally do, and then hope, some things get viral and some things make money and you have good launches. But underneath, at some point, little money is coming in each month. And maybe that little money is enough at some point to pay the mortgage, to pay the rent. Like maybe that is the security blanket that some of us need in order to quit our jobs, in order to do this full time, right? Or in order to actually risk. And instead of doing your website redesign yourself, you decide, I'm going to hire someone to do it because I got a little money coming in. I can afford to take a little bit more risk. So in your business, when you're thinking about how do you make more money, think about some of those, and I would say truly passive income. Most passive income things people talk about really aren't, like membership. Like you got to work, you got to make PDFs, there's no passive income with memberships. You got to produce.
Absolutely.
But a lifetime second tier commission, that has a passive side. And if you can think and find them all year, then it's very possible you could pay your mortgage or your rent or your biggest bills by just an underlying passive income source that takes away fear, takes away stress, and lets you be more creative.
Amazing. And lifetime commissions, there's not a lot of affiliate programs that actually do lifetime commissions. And so the fact that you're doing that, I think on two levels: one, very generous; two, it helps with the loyalty as well. I mean, there's a high degree of incentive for others to spread the word about you and to let everyone else know that, look, there's this opportunity here.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And in fact, one of the ways that we make money with the stack is I know marketers who have lifetime commission products. So while I try to keep 80% of all of the contributors in Stack new every year, there are some that are in it every year because I need them to be in it, because that ends up being my income source. Mm-hmm. So they produce a product for the Stack. And then when you go get it, it's my affiliate link that you go get it. And then because they have lifetime commissions and you buy more stuff from those experts over time, I get checks over time from 2014, from our first BC Stack, from our first time that happened when I had there was a product in it where I was an affiliate for the product. And then I still get checks from 2014 from that one person who was in it once. And I decide, okay, every year I have to find some people that have a lifetime commission thing. I'm going to put a product of theirs in the Stack, and that's going to cookie those people to me forever so that we have recurring income over time. Not just Stack, but the back end of it actually makes us money.
And such an amazing business model. I mean, really, I think it's super inspiring. And I think if nothing else, I mean, it's a great opportunity, and we're going to make sure that we link to this. And so people know about this, and we're going to help you spread the word about it as well. But just to think about, so anyone listening in, like, how do you think about your project differently so that, like you've created this win-win-win here between the people who buy the product and the people who contribute to the product, and then the affiliate commissions. And then I think there's this other level too, where it wasn't your original intent, but this is how you get paid, as well as the embedding in those other affiliate links, the lifetime commission links into the program. So
yeah,
super smart. I know we could spend all day unpacking this. Probably it sounds like another topic for an 8-hour workshop where you could.
Well, yes, it does. We've been thinking about that.
Well, let me know. And I would definitely love to get on board with contributing or promoting or whatever. So please do let us know about that. So, before we wrap up, Dan, on the entrepreneurial journey is not an easy one for a lot of folks. And, there's a lot of growth and leadership that has to come along the way. And none of us really accomplish as anything by ourselves. And this whole time we've been talking about how we do stuff with others. So 2 questions I have for you before we kind of wrap things up. One is, if there is a leader or a mentor or someone who's been the most, it's your go-to place for, information or, just, guidance on how to do more or be more or whatever, who is that? And then what's one must read book that you recommend our audience gets their hands on?
Well, for me, the go-to guy, and this is going to sound weird, is Jeff Bezos. I know that's going to sound strange, but is there a better internet marketer on the planet than Jeff? Like, is your list as big as Jeff's? I don't think so. Yeah. Are you bringing in the income that he's bringing in? I don't think so. For me, what is amazing is the constant A/B testing they do on the page, like headlines here and pictures there and different things. But even more, he came up with the idea of letting other people sell products on Amazon. It's not just they source their own products, but now Nike can sell shoes and you can sell your shoe right next to the Nike shoe. So millions of people now make their income from Amazon because he had this idea. So, and it's a little bit like, Elon Musk is like idea factory, but for me, even stack everything that we do, I always think, like, what would Jeff do? Like, how do you make this a million times bigger? Why are we so limited? Like, why is my brain so limited to the thinking that I have at the moment? Like I should be able to sell 1 million units is my head. And I think if Jeff Bezos was in the room, he would tell me, oh, well, you just need to do these 8 things. So I'm always constantly trying to listen to his interviews and read the stuff. Like, what other insights does he have about how things work? Because what I don't need is to copy Jeff. What I do need is to be inspired the same way he does, and then try to think that big. Like, we're not going to make any money for 11 years. I'm going to borrow millions and millions of dollars until that moment in time when we make millions of dollars. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you have that mindset? But I do have a guy in Italy, Craig Sunny, that I call every once in a while because Craig's genius exceeds mine in different ways. He does very odd things. And I'm always interested in his odd things. So, like, for one of them, in this little town in Italy, he is the marketer for a festival, just like a Renaissance type festival. And he was telling me how every single piece of information that was put out was trackable. Like, even the banners on the light poles, in the town, he wanted to know, like, which light pole actually caught the people's attention and which message and which picture. And like, so every time I'm thinking through a project, I just call Craig. I'm like, dude, I'm going to tell you about what I'm doing, because he thinks that I'm just telling him about what I'm doing, but what's really happening is Greg can't get out of his own head. And then he's like, oh, dude, you know what you should do? You should do this, and you should do this, and you should do this, and you should do this way, a different way, because then you could. And for me, that is just fantastic. You need people who think totally different than you do. If you don't have people who think totally different than you do, then I would suggest that you join the Plumbers Union, or you join some group on Meetup that has marketing in the masthead, but is something totally different. How to market an advertising agency, how to market dental offices, and just go, like, listen in, and like something is going to be so different. You're going to think, oh, that would totally work for me. I never really thought about that before. But then the book, I guess, going along the same concept, is a book called Unbuilding the World Trade Center. And it's written by William Langveish. And I actually read the first chapter in that magazine, Atlantic Monthly, which I've always thought was a brilliant idea. Like, put the chapter in the magazine, and then all of a sudden people will buy the book. Well, that's exactly what happened. I read the first chapter and I bought the book. And it was the detailed account of what happened after 9/11. How did they clean it up. And for me, it's an amazing book because so many people had to be involved and so many rules had to be broken in order for that to happen. And then it was almost a book about it's easier to get forgiveness than permission kind of concept. Like in New York City, you have to put things out for bid, but how do they have a 3-month process to put things out for bid to clean up the debris from 9/11? Like you can't wait 3 months to go through the process of bidding and you follow all these steps. So they had to basically talk about, it's not only unbuilding the World Trade Center, but it's like unbuilding everything that we've ever thought about how we do business lawfully in New York in order to get something done. And then how do we hire this guy without making that guy mad? Like the whole thing, and who's in charge? Like, do you know the sidewalk department was actually in charge of cleaning up 9/11? It was the only group they could pin it on. Like nobody else was like, that's not our job. It's like, it's not our job. But 2 guys from the sidewalk department basically stood up and said, we'll take it. And so the whole book is leadership, and it's all about who did this and how did they get it done, and how did they dredge the river in order for boats to big enough to get up the river, to get the debris, to take it out of there. Like who was in charge of thinking through all of these little pieces and parts? And I just loved the leadership part of it the entire time. I've read it a couple of times, and every time I buy a new copy, I end up giving it away against my will, but I feel like compelled. Like if somebody comes over, I just like, you should take this book. But inside, I don't want to give it to them, but I still do. So anyway, that's my book.
It sounds like there's a lot of great takeaways. And, the title almost doesn't do it justice in terms of, the takeaways that you just described. Because in your mind, you might make up that, okay, it's a book about 9/11, but it is and it isn't, right? It's a book about getting things done. It's a book about leadership. It's about how do we do things differently when the existing rules won't work? What do we do?
Yeah, there was an equalization pipe that went underneath the World Trade Center from the water on both sides, and the building collapsed on the pipe. So they didn't know exactly how much debris to lift off before that would flood. Like even like every piece of information, like somebody had to figure it out logistically. I mean, just crazy to me. Crazy.
Amazing. Well, great recommendation. We're going to make sure we link to that book here. And I have not read it, and it is now on my must-read list. And so I'll let you know what I get out of it. Dan, I know we're going to be talking, again in the future, and there's definitely things that we can do together in the future. So first of all, I want to thank you so much for your time. And if anyone was inspired by this episode and wants to find out more about you or what you're doing, where is the best place for them to reach out to you?
Twitter.com/Dan R. Morris. I am a Twitter guy. I've been a Twitter guy since 2007 or something. Otherwise, we're at audienceindustries.com. But and on Facebook /Dan R. Morris, Dan R. Morris everywhere. But I would say Twitter is probably the best place.
Awesome. Well, we're going to make sure that we link to all of your applicable profiles and website. And just one final thank you, Dan. So amazing. And there's so many takeaways. There isn't just one from this episode. There's so much to unpack. But if you were going to leave our audience with just one final word of wisdom for them to go out and be inspired and take things on in their own businesses, what would you say to them?
I would say there's no reason you can't. That would be it. There's no reason you can't make $1 million. There's no reason you can't get that done. Everything can be done. There's just no reason.
That needs to be a poster on the wall somewhere, right? And
yeah.
So
there's no reason.
There's a new product for you. So Dan, thank you so much. And to our audience, thank you so much for listening in. And if you were inspired by anything Dan had to say today, please reach out to him and learn more about BC Stack, learn more about Podcasters Kit and all of other, Dan's amazing projects. I'm sure there's going to be others. And Dan, I know that you and I will be talking again real soon. So this has been amazing. And to everyone listening in, keep moving forward, keep being inspired, keep removing those obstacles, and make your big dreams a reality in your business. And until next time, we'll see you. This is Chuck Anderson with the Creative Collaboration Show with Dan Morris. Thank you so much.